Welcome to the Enchanted Earth Podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own. Hi, welcome today. I'm Maureen Calamia, and I have a guest today, Sophia Batalha. She is a graphic designer by training, a teacher by chance, a writer by visceral need, and an independent researcher by natural curiosity. She is also a pilgrim through inner and outer landscapes of wild Iberian mythology, remembering ancient earth practices in radical presence, active listening, eco-psychology, eco-mythology, art, ecstasy, and writing. Welcome today, Sophia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm loving your Enchanted Earth and being present here, just sharing this with you. So thank you.
I am so excited to talk with you today about a few stories that you'd like to share. And I know one of them was when you were a child on the beach in Portugal.
It's always sacred to hear each other's childhood, right? It's a very sacred space. And so yeah, it's referring to a southern place in Portugal. Well, this is like early 80s, later 70s. And this is a time when actually people here, they used to live like early 20th century. This is a fisherman community, and people still fish like in very traditional ways. They use their old boats and they sell their fish in the beach, and so everything is very kind of ancient still in a way. And this is one of my places where you have still the old houses, and just for context, just for us all to kind of imagine this place that it doesn't exist anymore in this way. The houses, this part of Portugal is much like Northern Africa. It's very hot, very dry, very sandy. So all the homes, they're like kind of Muslim homes. They have a terrace. They have like protections for the sand, that so that the sand won't come into the homes, and people live their days, especially like in summer when it's very hot. People either are inside their homes during the day because of the scorching sun, or just working out in the ocean, or they are at the beach. But we were just in vacation, so we didn't work there. But anyway, so people used to commune and celebrate by night. Everyone came to the streets, and everyone seated at their homes, at their doors, and everyone greeted one another. So it was a very small village at that point. And my memories, they go to this particular place also because there was not that much light pollution that it is today. So the the sky was big. The sky was very vast. The Milky Way was astonishing, and I used to lose myself in those skies in a very in my imagination, but in a very practical way. We used to go up to the ceilings of the homes and just stay there, just looking at the Pleiades and the Milky Way and all of the constellations. And usually in this time in summer, there's a star shower, so there's a lot of meteorites coming through, and so it's very, very, very beautiful. One of my most fondest memories that I have of that place is also one of the stories that my father used to tell me. And my father is a very rational person. So, stars aren't poetic. Stars are stars. They're gases. And so, and he used to tell me in a very pragmatic way that most of the stars that we were seeing in those starry skies were no longer there, were echoes of ancient stories, ancient lights that traveled for millions and millions and millions of kilometers throughout the universe. And they were reminders of very ancient, very, very, very ancient light and realities. And so he tried to like bring me into this very scientific, rational narrative of, this is just this. And my mind just exploded with mystery, you know?
Oh, that is just precious, right? And looking at it from a childlike point of view. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I find this paradox of him trying to feed me a very rational reality, but I'm like exploding in enchantment through these lights and through that sky. And it's something that I recall quite often, that space time and that type of connection. It's a type of relation that, I guess, of course, we all can kind of foster this type of relation, and it's a very human like thing to kind of connect to something beyond yourself and something much vaster than yourself, but you're in it, you're completely in it. So it's something like you're not outside from it, you're participating in it, so you're receiving that light, you're receiving those whispers, those cosmic whispers. And so it's very ecstatic, really, just watching the stars.
Yeah, it's almost like your father was the observer, right? The scientific observer, but you were immersed in the magic of the sky. I'm wondering if your father had that sensibility that you experienced, or that experience as a child, and somehow that was, you know, changed in him as he grew older.
Possibly. I mean, we had very different upbringings, For my father, science saved him because he didn't go on vacation when he was a small kid. That didn't happen in Portugal, in those very rural communities. He went with shepherding his goats to the mountain when he was 10 or when he was 8. So it was a very different type of positioning, of the relating, where he then studied engineering, and he's an academic teacher and everything. So he kind of strived for a sense of security, a sense of participating, that gave him more ability or more sense of control in a way, because that was not what he felt when he was a child. So that it's very different, and it's very actually nourishing, those types of contexts and different things that we kind of grasp from reality, and we weave into each other's, like, it's also what we need, right?
What was it like then, standing on that beach, looking up at the night sky with your father? I mean, that's almost like prescient to what you're doing now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I actually found this word the other day. That's, I guess it was some astronomers that brought this word forward, that it's Noctalgia. And Noctalgia means the loss of the darkness of the night. Means that we have so much light pollution by night that we've lost the stars, we've lost the universe. And so Noctalgia means also a loss of us dealing with that depth of of our consciousness being severed from the cosmic relation, that what the stars brought me at that point. And that word really grabbed me in a way, because I remember when the last time I saw these stars and these depths with this darkness, when I got involved in this relation, I was probably no more than 10 years old. And so it was a long time. And where I live and this place where this happens, that is not possible anymore. The stars have been taken away. Of course, they're there for sure, but we cannot see them. And when we cannot see them, it's like, there's this weird modernity, technology mantle that settles us in and kind of dissociates us from these very tender and very potent ability to relate with the other than human. And relating to the stars is of course is a I guess is a visceral human wisdom. We are unable to cruise throughout life without relating to the stars, without telling their stories, without sharing their light, without hearing them in a way. And now I cannot hear them anymore. So I fondly relate to these memories, to that time where I could really see them. I could see them moving throughout the arc, and one of the things that worries me is to be able to bring this vastness of relation to my own children, so that they don't ever forget what's possible there. And so it's a very simple and very basic in a way. There's not this big ever moment of something really intense happening. No, it's just the porous body completely relating to the cosmos, and that is super powerful.
Wow. Yeah, I understand. I grew up and I still live on Long Island, which is outside of New York City. So I did not have the depth of the Milky Way. I didn't even know that you could see the Milky Way really with the naked eye. And actually, the first time that I recall seeing it was when we went up to Maine and we camped at Acadia National Park, which is, into the Atlantic Ocean. And I remember sitting on the cliff at night looking up and just being absolutely astonished. And it really, really affected me in a very embodied way. And when my children were little, I was very determined to bring them to have that experience. And we went camping up to New Hampshire. And my daughter even talks about it to this day, her first time seeing it. And just, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
And how many people have never seen it?
yeah, yeah. It's something of a very ancient belonging to a cosmic ecology that kind of gets sparkled when we have the ability to relate to it. Um, and so it's a very important thing to foster that, because it is deep time relating. It's not just the now. It is a deep time relating. And I guess going a few steps back to your earlier question, that brings me to the work I do today in a way, because I do work with at this moment my very active endeavor and questioning and inquiry has to do with ecomythology. And ecomythology is not like the pristine awakening and investigation of the old gods. Like here, for instance, in the Iberian Peninsula, there's a lot of old gods here, always morphing and always changing. But we only know a few of them through written records of Romans and Greeks, because we don't have the words. We don't have, but we have the old relations. We have our bodies to recall. And so ecomythology has to do with that, has to do with remembering and fostering these very old mm, abilities to relate that go beyond the verbal, that are very somatic, that rekindle your imagination, that open up different possibilities just by observing slash participating and witnessing what's emerging in any given landscape. And that ties into what you were referring after, that how many people haven't seen the Milky Way? And like I was saying, the place where I witnessed this and where I communed with these stars and with the universe, it's it only has like huge apartment buildings now. It's like you know a summer town. So all the small homes have been destroyed. Everything is super urban now. Um, and the first time I returned there, I got so sad. My heart really broke. Because all of those memories, very precious memories, they didn't have, their place was gone. Their place was destroyed. And I cried a lot when I returned. I think I was like 30 something when I returned there. And just to see all of those like huge apartment buildings and shops and shops and shops and coffees and and all of that, like equal to anywhere else in the world, it really broke my heart. Yeah.
A really outstanding, profound experience with nature is, did that symbol, did that connection with the night sky, uh, do you have any other stories that connected a little bit later in your life?
Yes. I mean, I guess that cartography, that sense of the vastness and of the depth of the night sky, I think that's part of my own digging. In a way, that's part of my own, the way I walk in the world, of walking with depth. So always trying to look for the slow movements, for the subtleties, for whatever is moving so slow that possibly you say, "Oh, it's not moving." But it is. It's always, everything is always moving. It gave me kind of an extra attention. I have a deep fascination with deserts. And so deserts are like one of my archetypal landscapes, so to speak, because they really move me. They really entice me. I'm afraid of deserts, just so you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. There's just they're like kind of mimicking the sky. The vastness of the sky is something that, like the desert, it's too vast. It's too wide, too big. But also, they speak with such aliveness. I'm speaking of old deserts, and old deserts have their own ecology. They're alive. in every way, shape, or form. They're always moving. They're like the fastest moving mountains are the desert ones, you know. So they're very emergent. They're very shifting. There's this idea of the shifting landscape. It's the desert itself. So of course, all our landscapes are always shifting, are always morphing. But the desert is much more undulating. You know, it has that quality of the earth in flux. And so, where can you see the Milky Way better? It's in the desert.
Yes.
And so it has that connection of the vastness of the earth and the vastness of the sky. And it's kind of a home to my body, not to my mind, but it's a home to my body where I can just stay there. But if I stay in my mind, I'll be like, this is not safe. I cannot be here. This is too big. What do I do if something happens? You know. So this. So it's very nourishing to go.
So there was a story that you shared with me about camping in the desert. Uh, and you were at I think, a particular point in your life where kind of you went off on a different path.
I do know exactly the day when that happened. It was like the January 3rd of 2009. I want to add a footnote to this conversation that throughout life, I do get lost a lot. So that wasn't the first or the last one I got lost. But yeah, I was in a big threshold professionally and yeah, relationally. Everything was like, and I was in one part of the several deserts in Jordan near Syria. And so we were camping there, and there's a lot of rocky formations. So it's not a wide open desert, but it's kind of a forest of rocks in a way, of pointy rocks. Some you can climb, some are bigger. And one day I woke up pretty early and just set out. I was in the desert and I really welcomed the space at that time. So I decided to go for a walk and I started to climb and I just seated myself in. And the sun was coming up and I was just there, you know, those rare moments when you're just there. And then I heard this sound that I can never repeat. But this sound, I recall this sound like it's happening now. This kind of um, silent whoosh, and it was silent, and that's one of the qualities of the vastness of the desert that brings us, and that nourishes me really. That deep, deep silence, singing silence, I must say. And so this sound, this silent whoosh, came rushing in like, and immediately all my senses told me to look up, you know? And so I see just flying over me a huge bird. I don't know what bird it was. I don't know, vulture, something. There are no vultures there, but the wingspan was so big and it was black and it was like moving its wings just above me. So it was checking me out, actually. just checking me. And that moment was so, I don't have actually words that can, like, all the words I can add to this are just like glimpses of the experience itself. But it was something that filled me in completely and emptied me completely. And so that presence of that mighty, powerful bird above me at that point, and Oh, just saw a falcon circling here. Wow. Yes, the mightiness of that presence. And he was pretty low. That's why I could hear its wings moving. I don't know. It's just life changing, and it brings you to a space in your psyche and in your body where different possibilities emerge, where sometimes things that you didn't even think about or considered or even saw as reality, they just glimpse at you and they just, make you move forward in a different quality with a different tonality in a way. So yes, I don't have words for it. So
Yeah, I love what you just said because there's some real truth to that. When we have these experiences, there's a quality that cannot be named, but yet everything is different. Every possibility is there in front of us.
yeah, it's both the vast horizon and the vastness of the sky in the desert that are so nourishing and so perilous at the same time, because you don't have anywhere to hide. I mean, this bird in particular, uh, he was hunting, you know. That was why he was sniffing me out. And so, you know, of course he knew I was not dead, I was moving in a way, but that attunement, that type of attention, I guess that's one of the things I've learned from that experience is that quality of attention, which is a very focused attention. It's a fascinated attention of sorts.
Oh, that's a great term, and I kind of feel as you're talking that it because it involves the heart, it's not just a mental attention, it's a heart-based attention.
Exactly. These two experiences, and picking up on what you were just saying, recalling all the stories from the stars and this bird flying overhead is not something you apprehend with your head or that you try to control or make sense with your head. The sense, in a way, or the meaning comes through the body. So the meaning is already here if I give it words or not. So it's not something that it needs to be extracted or it needs to be controlled or it needs to be named for that matter. It just needs to be recalled with all the sacredness and all the paradoxes, because these experiences are very fractal, and meaning that when we foster and we nurture the memory of these experiences, they emerge in a different way every time.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're not
and
fixed.
they're not stagnant, they're alive within us.
Yes. And I think that's very important because one of the um, acculturations of our own minds tells us that we need to find static meaning, to conclude, to neatly organize things. And, now it's in the box. Now I can frame it and just leave it there. But as long as memories are alive, they will change. They will move. They will show you different places and different perspectives, and they will, because even your framing from the experience, it will move in depth. It's a very organic movement that gives you, and it just keeps unfolding, and I find it very beautiful. Yeah, it's a sort of ecological remembrance, right? That it's able to just keep unfolding these very important memories of connection that we all need today, I guess. But I think the desert experience really connected me to that earlier memory of just allowing yourself to be immersed in where you are and not try to control what's to come. And this is a very childlike position. Childlike is the wonder, the like it's a sort of innocent wonder, but it doesn't have filters to that wonder. We cannot attune to these types of experiences excluding or completely excluding trauma. We cannot exclude the shadows, the fears, and the anguish. So, this is all part of that wonder. That's why it's so powerful. That's why it moves you. These experiences are always in the verge of, they're always in the verge of that fear, shadow, and they can become also that. That's why our memories are so permeable and change. And so sometimes when you grasp the whole event, you can see all of this. You can see all of the layers. You can see like glimpses, right? It's not something again to control or to fold neatly. But I guess it gave me these two experiences uh, made me recall and kind of keep it in my body this memory of something I've already spoke about, this visceral way of relating that we all have. We're all mammals. We're all completely attuned to topography, ecology, weather patterns, smells, sounds, you know, texture. It brought me to a particular availability in that type of connection, and in the connection that is not neatly organized or that is not linear, because it's not a rational connection only. And of course, it brings the archetype of my father's figure as the archetype of the rational, and the archetype of the linear. And from there, he kind of seeded the mystery in me in a way that it unfolded in a very peculiar way for him. But it brought me to wider possibilities, yeah, of being able to attune back, of, of being able to reciprocate, to be in reciprocity, because that's what attention is. You can only like nurture the space for it. And so reciprocity, it is an important thing, because it brings it to letting go of expectations in a way, and just being open to whatever emerges. And sometimes it's nothing. That nothing is sacred. Yes.
Well, Sophia, I am so nurtured all the time whenever we get on Zoom together or chat. Just really nourished by your poetic expression of our divine connection to the universe. So I thank you so much for being on here today. Any last words for everybody?
Hi. Yes, I mean, I would like to end with the word immanence. We are most used to strive for transcendence, but immanence is the work of coming back. Transcendence is to go beyond, which is super valuable and needed also. But to just go beyond without ever coming back, the cycle is never complete. So you deplete yourself and deplete everything around. So immanence, I think it's a very important paradigm in a way of fostering coming back. And coming back is difficult because when you start to come back again, you touch trauma, you touch shadows, you touch a lot of things that you don't own, but the land has it all. And so if you are available to hear the songs and the screams of the earth, you have to have space for that. And that's the movement of immanence. It's a devotional practice also. So, yes. And thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for all our conversations and for all our resonances. And I wish you tons of good things for your new projects.
Oh, well, thank you. And I want to do a shout out to all of you watching. I would love to hear your thoughts about what we discussed today. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Sophia.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Comment below, share, and most of all, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll hear when we publish another inspiring episode. You can visit us at luminous-spaces.com for more information on our online courses, retreats, and offerings. Thank you and have a magical day.